Okay, so chapter 1061 has been out for a little bit now. Egghead, the Island of the Future. Chapter after chapter after chapter in a row, Oda has just been writing straight fire. I can't believe how many good chapters we've had back to back to back, just packed with awesome stuff. So let's talk about it. Okay, so first up we have the cover story, which is Germa Double Six's Cold-Blooded Voyage. This is the 19th installment of that, and it's called Time to Escape, Niji and Yonji Are Free. So we see that it's the four Innsmoke siblings, without Sanji, of course, and Caesar, and they are escaping. Looks like they're pretty high up in the sky. They're making their way off of Whole Cake Island and slowly making their way out of Big Mom's territory. So clearly, Katakuri and Ovens fight last time, where they were all confused and not really sure what was happening and fighting each other with Caesar's gas. Turned out pretty well for Germa and Caesar. So, other than that, there's not too much to talk about with this, so let's move on to the chapter, because, wow, there was a lot in that chapter. Okay, so first up we have the panels with the Straw Hats picking up where we left off in chapter 1060, where we saw when Zoro cut open that giant eddy that kind of looked like a mushroom, or according to Brooke, an afro, and out popped Bonnie. So Luffy is grabbing Chopper and Bonnie. He doesn't know it's Bonnie, he just sees there's a person that's gonna fly away, and, Luffy being a decent person, grabs them. And so after that, we see that there's this giant shark monster underneath of them that is absolutely ginormous, that could eat the Sunny up like 100 times and still have room for more food. And they're kind of freaking out, looking down, and apparently at the same time we see them talking about how Luffy's flying, and Bonnie tells them to look down, and when they look down they see this giant monster, and Franky is going into full, let's get the Sunny out of here mode. And Zoro looks at it and he's like, a shark? No, it's made out of metal. And if we look on the shark, the first panel where it bites up and the ship just narrowly escapes it, you can see that it says UNK, which I think we can infer already that that's going to say punk. And we keep going, and Jinbei is now trying to take control of the situation, and realizing, okay, Luffy and the other people fell in the sea, and he knows, of course, Luffy and Chopper are both Devil Fruit users, and this other person, we don't know anything about them. Well, we do as the audience, but the Straw Hats don't. And so Jinbei tells Franky to take the helm and steer the ship over to where he's gonna go to get Luffy, Bonnie, and Chopper. And Franky, of course, is showing us this really, really awesome stuff that he has equipped into the Sunny called the Rabbit, and if you look, it's like this little fan turbo thing, and it's got little bunny ears on the top of it, which is absolutely adorable. And of course it's called Rabbit Screw Propeller, because not only does it have to be cute, but it also has to be epic mecha stuff, right? And so the Sunny flies off a little bit, and then there's an explosion. The Sunny flies up into the air, and the whole crew that's on the Sunny, which is Zoro, Nami, Franky, Brooke, Usopp, Robin, I think that's everybody. If I missed anybody, oops. So everybody that's not Luffy, Jinbei, Chopper are flown into the water, and it looks like they're still somewhat close to the Sunny. So now our group is 100% split, because we see Jinbei, he has Bonnie and Chopper over one shoulder and Luffy over the other, and he's hearing explosions and stuff happening, and he's just trying to swim to get them out of the water so they don't drown and die, because none of them can swim because they're all Devil Fruit users, right? And then we come to the next couple of panels, and we see this giant mecha robot thing Jinbei then tells Luffy, Bonnie, and Chopper to hold their breath because he needs to get away from this current that is like this massive current waves, whether it's from the explosions or from the shark or just like the island around it has like really rough tides. We don't really know if it's a combination, or I think it's a combination of kind of everything that's happening right now, because we had that eddy release, we had the shark, we had the explosions from this robot, plus the island itself seems to have kind of extreme weather. And of course, kaboom, kablamo, and our group is now off somewhere. Luffy, Chopper, Bonnie, and Jinbei are off somewhere, and now we're back towards what's happening with this robot, right? And we see all of the other Straw Hats are holding their breath underwater and drowning. And it looks like in the panel that Zoro has Brook by the afro. He grabbed Brook, and of course Sanji's holding Robin, because those are our only two Devil Fruit users in this half of the Straw Hats, or I guess not really half, but this group within the Straw Hats that's left. And so everybody's kind of drowning, and then we see this robot start beating the absolute shit out of this giant shark mecha thing, and it looks absolutely terrified of the giant robot. And then of course, we don't get to see what happens next for a little bit further into the chapter, and we pivot to the Marines. So we are now at a naval base, G14, which means G for Grand Line 14, and we see Tashigi. So Tashigi is actually here with all of the children that the Straw Hats, and I guess technically Law, saved from Punk Hazard, and they're a lot smaller apparently at this point. And this makes sense that the naval base is right here with Tashigi, because we knew last time that we left Tashigi, she and Smoker were heading for Dr. Vegapunk to help the children get the medication, or quote-unquote medication, that Caesar was pumping them up with, which was really a toxic drug that made them big but ultimately was going to kill them, and to deal with all the withdrawal symptoms and everything. And so they're here and they're being treated now, which is good. That means that there was a cure, which is awesome. And of course the kids are like, ooh, icky medicine, And the only kid that stands out to me is Mocha, because quite honestly that's the only one I remember the name of, because the rest of them were kind of not really relevant. And then we position and we meet some more characters. There's a lot of new characters, or at least characters that hadn't been formally introduced are now being introduced. So first up, we have Vice Admiral of the G14, so she's also the commander of this particular division of the Navy, and her name is Dal. And she is currently trying to get Tashigi to help her with a very, very upset and emotional Helmeppo, which, understandable, because he was abducted by Blackbeard. And he is very, very upset and very frustrated because Kobe, they haven't really heard anything, and Tashigi's trying to explain to her, like, you know, he's our junior, he joined the Marines after us, like, we kind of have to look out for the younger guys. And of course, Tashigi's also just a really kind person in general. And the first thing I thought when I saw Dal was she kind of reminds me of Nana Hisaki from the anime or manga Nana, who kind of has that, like, really punk, hot goth girlfriend vibe. But her hair is a little bit curly while Nana's hair is, like, pin straight. But it kind of reminds me of her, the aesthetic, so I don't know. That's just me. I don't know if anybody else kind of got that vibe, but that's kind of where I saw the inspiration from. After we pan away from Dal for a second, we get into a larger picture, and we see a bunch of Navy people. Because we're at this base, we're seeing a larger group of them interacting. And so Dal is actually trying to tell Tashigi to calm down Helmeppo or deal with him because he is absolutely hysterical, inconsolable about Kobe's kidnapping, and, you know, they can't really just go in and get him because it's not exactly an easy feat, even for higher up Navy members. And so you have Helmeppo and Hibari I think is another new character, and they're both confirmed members of SWORD, and they're both really upset about Kobe. Helmeppo more so because they joined the Navy together, and they've been through a lot together, I would assume, in the last couple of years, and so they probably have a really solid friendship, and it's probably really upsetting for him. So he's begging the Navy members that are higher ups in SWORD and just, I guess, in this G14 base in general to go to the pirate island or Beehive Island that Blackbeard inhabits to try to get Kobe back. And then we meet another member of SWORD who is Navy HQ Rear Admiral Prince Groose, who we actually saw him in a cover story about 100 chapters ago, and now he is a confirmed member of SWORD as well. And Prince Groose says Pirate Island, that's Blackbeard's home turf, will be swarmed by pirates if we stick our noses into the beehive. That's why it's called Hachinosu. So that means it's called Hachinosu literally because it's a beehive of pirates, and if you go to peek your head in there, you're gonna get stung, right? And then we see Helmeppo talking about Egghead, so we already knew that this island was right by Egghead. And he's saying, like, why can't we deploy a Seraphim? And Prince Groose is trying to explain to him, like, we can't really do that. You need to calm down. We can't get a hold of Drake either. We're in no position to just act. Like, we need to get more information, which I think is fair. Like, I don't think that's him being a dick. I think he's being realistic and saying, like, we can't just be emotional about this. Like, we have to actually get information, figure out what's going on before we can just go in there. Like, it's not a good idea. We don't need to just waste people's lives just because of this emotional reaction right now. Like, yeah, it sucks, but we gotta figure out more stuff before we can just go bursting into Hachinosu. And after we finish that little scene with the Marines at G14 base, we pan back to Luffy's group, and it's between, as you remember, Bonnie, Luffy, Jinbei, and Chopper. That's the 4 that we have in this group that's by the cave. Everybody else is on the Sunny with that robot thing. So Bonnie is saying, like, how can you not know who I am, Luffy? Like, we're literally both part of the worst generation. How do you not know who I am? Like, that's insane. And saying, like, we were also both at Sabaody, like, 2 years ago. Like, we saw each other. How do you not know who I am? And she's like, don't forget that, you know, we're enemies. And she's like, my name's Bonnie because you forgot it, like a dumbass. But she's like, still, thank you for saving my life. So again, it's like Law. Even though Law was like Luffy's ally, he's like, we are still going to be enemies after this. Like, do not forget, like, just because we helped each other out for a while and we saved each other's asses a couple times doesn't mean that we're not enemies in the grand scheme of, like, the pirate world. And she's just, like, dumbfounded at how much of an absolute goofball Luffy is, and she's like, are you seriously an emperor? She's watching him, like, play with his wet shirt with Chopper and, like, laughing and goofing around. And then she actually asks him about the wanted poster because all of our Straw Hats and everybody, they have been isolated in Wano, and even after they beat Kaido and Big Mom and figured out how to do all that stuff, right? Even after that all happens, they really haven't had too much connection to the outside world. So they've been getting the information from the newspaper in chunks, right? And so Bonnie asks him, what's the deal with your wanted poster anyway? I thought your hair was white now. They made quite a stir about it in the papers, you know. That's kind of calling back to when the Hachinosu and Navy HQ were trying to eradicate Luffy during his fight with Kaido, and then what happened when the wanted poster was released afterwards. It was really not supposed to happen, and they also wanted to take the D out of his name, because at that point, he is now crushed to, like, he didn't defeat Big Mom, but Kaido is one of the most threatening pirates in the entire world, and Luffy took him down and activated the Hito Hito no Mi Nika model, right? And so that's not supposed to get out because nobody's supposed to know that the Nika model even exists. It's supposed to be classified as the stupid rubber fruit because who the hell would want a rubber fruit? That sounds so stupid, right? But that got out, and apparently in the world it made huge impact, huge deal, which means we're probably going to see more pans into different parts of the world and seeing people kind of react to that, I would imagine. And so Luffy says, oh, that's just how I look when I'm totally free, which tells us Luffy has no idea that his devil fruit is wonky. Like, even Kaido said, that's kind of weird, like, you're supposed to have a paramecia, but that's not how a paramecia works when it's awakened. Like, you're able to turn stuff into rubber, which would be the paramecia awakening, but your whole form changed too. That's a Zoan thing, right? And that's what Kaido told us. And Luffy, being Luffy, didn't really connect the dots at all. And what's that supposed to mean? Aren't you worried about the rest of your crew? And Luffy, responding to Bonnie, is just, oh, that's fine, and he starts laughing. And then she's also like, I don't know how you got the Knight of the Sea with you either. Like, you have a former warlord on your team. Like, what? And then Jinbei, being, the responsible adult in this group, asks her about where her crew is and her ship, and she says, I came alone. The metal monster gobbled up my ship, and then she's like, I'm hungry. And Luffy's like, oh, I'm hungry too. And Bonnie's like, oh my god, you guys are stupid. She's like, you're not gonna find food around here. This is a government island. Like, how do I have to tell you everything here? Like, are you just that unaware of where you are? And then she tells us where we are, and this is a confirmation of kind of what I thought back when we saw her during the reverie. And when she said that she had to go speak with a certain man or a certain person or whatever, or she wanted to find him, this is the confirmation of that, right? I thought she was looking for Vegapunk because of Kuma. I think there's a huge tie with Bonnie and Kuma that we're going to find out about in this arc. She says, we're on Egghead, the island that's said to be 500 years in the future. Dr. Vegapunk's research is based here. Vegapunk? I know that name. Vegapunk's the reason I'm here. We've got business. And I think it's important to note that we don't actually know what Bonnie and Kuma's relationship was. We also don't know the extent of her power and how her fruit works, or what exactly her fruit is, because we know she can change her own age and we know she can change the age of other people, but we don't actually know if Bonnie's form right now is her actual age, because she appears to be in her 20s, but if she's that, insistent on coming all the way here to get revenge or do something for Kuma, it kind of makes me wonder if that's actually her age or if she's a lot older and knows a lot more than we think she does. And then finally we get to the big reveal, which, if you were following along the chapter and were paying attention to the lettering and stuff on the different creatures and robot things so far, you would see a lot of punks and numbers and stuff. So this robot, we can see on it very clearly now in the next panel that it says Vega Force, number 12 on it, and it has picked up the Sunny and is holding the Sunny, and all the Straw Hats that had gotten flung off are on it. And of course, Franky and Usopp are freaking out with stars in their eyes looking at this gigantic robot thing, while the other Straw Hats that are on the ship are kind of just like, what the fuck is happening? Very concerned, very serious. And then we see this person pop out of it, and they say, oh, this won't do at all, it's another failure. I guess, I can't override primal desire, which tells us that that shark thing is, partially real shark. And it says that this is supposed to be old-timer speech, and then Sanji is like, oh, somebody's coming out. And then this person with these goggles on How utterly vexing. And Franky thanks them for saving us, whoever they are. And the person says, I ordered the mecha shark to scout, report, and fire, but it keeps trying to eat ships. There won't be anything left to salvage. I must have messed up the programming. And then they take off the goggles and the hat, and they say, forgive me, but did you just say I saved you? Oh, you naive pirates. I work for the government. Despite my mediocrity, they like to call me their scientific genius. You can call me Dr. Vegapunk. And I know there's a lot of controversy about whether this is actually Vegapunk or not. If you look on this lady's jumpsuit, it says Punk 2. And the fact that there's a note specifically in the text to tell us that this is old timer speech, I'm going to take a guess and say this is not the original body. Dr. Vegapunk probably has some way to transfer his consciousness or control this robotic body, because I really don't think Oda would have said so many times that Dr. Vegapunk is an old man if Dr. Vegapunk wasn't an old man. I think this cute looking girl that kind of looks like Uta from the One Piece movie, Red, and I think that this is not the original body, or it's gonna be some kind of a fake out where it's this is actually Dr. Vegapunk's granddaughter or his daughter or something, but I don't think this is either not the host body or it's a descendant. Either way, I'm really excited to see what happens from here. I'm so excited that we finally get to meet Vegapunk, because Vegapunk has so many answers to so many things that I want to know the answers to. I don't really have much else to say about this chapter, other than like I said, the speculations about whether or not this is Vegapunk, or if this is Vegapunk using a different body, or it's a daughter or granddaughter of Vegapunk or whatever. But I'm excited. 1062 will be out soon, and I will make a video on that one as well. So if you have any theories or any comments or just want to share something, feel free to comment below. That's about it. Bye!